The restaurant was lively that evening, filled with the chatter of diners, the clinking of glasses, and the soft hum of background music. It was one of those high-end places where every detail seemed carefully curated, from the polished wooden tables to the soft, warm lighting that made the space feel inviting yet elegant. The air carried the faint aroma of rich sauces, freshly baked bread, and a hint of coffee from the nearby counter. Among the bustling activity, one table drew particular attention. A man in a perfectly tailored suit entered, his presence commanding yet calm, a quiet kind of confidence that made people glance in his direction without realizing why. He was a billionaire by status and reputation, but tonight he was there not for business or meetings. He had something else in mind, something playful, almost mischievous. He was guided to a prime corner table, close to the windows, where the lighting was soft and the view of the city outside was stunning. The staff greeted him with polite smiles, recognizing his face instantly. He waved them off with a subtle nod, not needing attention, yet enjoying the acknowledgement. Once seated, he scanned the restaurant with quiet amusement, noticing the way people moved, the way the staff interacted, the way diners reacted to their surroundings. Everything and everyone fascinated him in its own way. He wasn't cruel, but he had a taste for small games, experiments in human behavior, especially when it came to seeing how people handled unexpected situations. The waitress who approached him was young, with a professional poise that came naturally. She had been working there for a few years and knew the usual flow of the restaurant well. She had a warm smile, calm eyes, and a sense of efficiency that made her capable of handling almost any situation without getting flustered. Yet, there was something about her tonight that he noticed immediately. A sharpness in her gaze, a quiet confidence in the way she held herself. Most waitresses might have treated a high-profile guest with extra nervous energy, but she seemed grounded, observant, and ready for whatever came her way. That combination intrigued him. He ordered his meal carefully, selecting dishes that were rich and sophisticated, reflecting a taste he had developed over years of dining at such places. As he perused the menu, he chatted lightly with her, asking about the specials, commenting on the restaurant's ambience, all with a polite smile. But beneath that polite exterior, a plan was forming. He would create a scenario, a small challenge, to see how she would respond under pressure. He would pretend to forget something important, his wallet. It was simple, yet it would reveal much about character, confidence, and composure. As the waitress returned with his drinks, he casually mentioned that he seemed to have misplaced his wallet. The words were casual, almost offhand, but the way he said them carried a hint of mischief. He observed her reaction carefully. Some people would panic, apologize nervously, or make a flustered attempt to solve the problem. Others might become impatient or judgmental. She, however, blinked once, a small pause, and then smiled politely. "That's okay, sir," she said in a calm voice. "We can figure it out. No need to worry." Her tone was steady, professional, yet there was a warmth to it that put him on edge, in a good way. He was used to people reacting with anxiety or haste, and this calmness was unexpected. It made him lean back slightly in his chair, interested in the subtle strength she displayed. He decided to escalate the situation ever so slightly. "I don't think I have anything with me at all," he said, trying to sound embarrassed but keeping his tone controlled. "I might have left my wallet somewhere. I really don't know what to do." It was a simple statement, but it carried the weight of testing her patience and creativity. He wanted to see how she would handle the unexpected. Would she remain polite? Would she try to make a solution quickly? Would she judge him or stay neutral? The waitress didn't flinch. Instead, she nodded thoughtfully, as if considering the best approach. "We have a few options," she said. "You could leave a card on file, or I can check if the manager can authorize the meal. We'll make sure it's all fine for you. Don't worry about it." Her words were clear and concise, but they also carried an undercurrent of confidence. She wasn't just following protocol. She was assessing the situation and providing solutions without hesitation. He watched her closely, a small smile forming on his face. This was exactly the kind of reaction he had hoped for. She was polite but assertive, calm but resourceful. Most importantly, She didn't seem to be intimidated by him, despite knowing who he was. That quality was rare, especially in a place where people often adjusted their behavior based on wealth or status. The restaurant around them continued to hum with life. A couple nearby laughed quietly over a shared appetizer. A group of friends discussed their day with animated gestures, and the staff moved with practiced precision between tables. Yet, the billionaire and the waitress existed in a small bubble of interaction, a silent tension that was part curiosity, part challenge. Every small gesture, every polite word, carried meaning beyond the obvious. He was learning about her character in real time, and she, in turn, was navigating the scenario without knowing she was being studied. As the conversation continued, he added small hints to the puzzle. "I really hate making a scene like this," he said, his voice low enough for only her to hear. "I know it's a small thing, but it feels awkward." Again, he observed her reaction carefully. She didn't roll her eyes or sigh. She nodded, acknowledging his discomfort without judgment. "It's completely fine, sir," she replied. "These things happen. We'll get it sorted out quickly. Please enjoy your evening." Her calm professionalism didn't diminish the human warmth in her tone, and that subtle balance fascinated him even more. He decided to test her further, though still in a controlled way. He suggested that he might have to ask for favors, like borrowing someone's card or asking staff for temporary help. He expected hesitation, maybe slight annoyance, or even confusion, but she responded with grace and clarity. "If needed, we have ways to handle such situations," she said. "I'll make sure it's handled smoothly. No problem at all." She didn't speak with fear or flattery. She spoke with competence and reassurance. At that moment, the billionaire realized something. This wasn't just about a missing wallet. This was about observing human integrity, intelligence, and composure under unexpected circumstances. He was intrigued not by wealth or status, but by the way she managed herself in real life. She could have panicked or played it safe with empty words, but instead, she chose clarity, calm, and quiet authority. It was a rare combination that he had rarely encountered. The meal arrived, and he watched her work with the other staff, ensuring orders were correct, guiding them politely yet firmly when needed, all without showing impatience or irritation. Even in the small actions of pouring water, adjusting a plate, or answering questions, she displayed an ease and competence that left a strong impression. He continued to follow his little experiment, adding tiny obstacles and hints of complications, but she navigated them effortlessly. The rest of the diners went about their evening, unaware of the subtle game unfolding at the corner table. The billionaire occasionally glanced at them, noting the contrast between ordinary interactions and the quiet mastery of the waitress. He thought about how often people judged situations too quickly, allowed stress or fear to guide their reactions, or assumed power based on external factors like money. Here was someone who operated from skill, confidence, and intelligence, without needing to impress anyone. By the end of the meal, the first part of his test was complete. He had observed her initial reactions, her handling of unexpected stress, and her ability to maintain composure and kindness simultaneously. He leaned back, smiling to himself. The evening had started as a simple experiment, a game of curiosity, but it had quickly become an observation of something much deeper: human character and resilience. He realized that this young waitress, in her quiet and professional way, had captured more of his attention than anyone else in the room, and he was eager to see what would come next. The first part of the evening ended with polite words, soft smiles, and the subtle acknowledgement that something unusual had just taken place. The billionaire had set the stage for the next act, and the waitress, unknowingly, had already passed the initial test with flying colors. It was the kind of moment that could have gone unnoticed, but for him, it was a signal that the story was only beginning. And as he watched her move gracefully between tables, assisting others while maintaining her own calm, he felt a rare sense of anticipation. Curiosity about what would happen next and the small, unexpected twists life sometimes offered. As the evening went on, the restaurant became even busier. Waiters moved quickly between tables, carrying plates of food, refilling glasses, and answering questions. The chatter of diners filled the room, But in one corner, the atmosphere was quieter, more focused. The billionaire leaned back slightly in his chair, watching the waitress as she moved gracefully between her tables. Her calmness caught his attention again. She seemed unaffected by the crowd, handling multiple orders with ease and politeness. He realized that the challenge he had set for her earlier was only the beginning. He wanted to see more, how she would handle pressure and how far she could maintain her composure under unusual circumstances. He decided to test her subtly, not with obvious tricks, but by creating small, awkward situations that could unsettle anyone. First, he asked her for something unusual, a rare dish that wasn't on the menu. It wasn't impossible to get, but it would require extra effort from the kitchen and staff. He smiled politely, pretending to be unsure if they could accommodate the request. The waitress paused just a moment, thinking carefully, and then she nodded. "We can prepare that for you," she said, her tone confident and polite. "It will take a little time, but I'll make sure it's ready exactly as you want it." She didn't show hesitation or annoyance. She accepted the challenge as part of her job, and her response was both professional and reassuring. The billionaire leaned forward slightly, intrigued. Most people would have hesitated or tried to convince him to choose something simpler. Her willingness to handle the request impressed him. As they waited for the kitchen to prepare the special order, he decided to escalate the situation in a subtle way. He mentioned again that he had no money on him, almost casually, and added that he wasn't sure if he could pay at all. His tone suggested embarrassment, but there was also a slight challenge in it, as if he wanted to see what she would do next. Many people he knew would have panicked or been flustered. Some might have been rude or judgmental. He wanted to see if she would stay calm. The waitress listened carefully and nodded. She didn't flinch or act alarmed. "It's okay, sir," she said calmly. "We have ways to handle this. You don't need to worry. Let me check with the manager and see what can be done." She spoke with quiet authority. It wasn't just about following rules. It was about solving the problem efficiently and without unnecessary drama. The billionaire was impressed by her composure. He had seen many people in similar situations crumble under pressure, but she remained steady and confident. He decided to add another layer to his test. He suggested that perhaps she could offer a personal solution, one that required her judgment and creativity. He hinted that he wanted something extraordinary, something that would show initiative. The waitress listened carefully, her eyes thoughtful for a brief moment. Then she smiled gently. "I can make it work," she said simply. "Let's see how we can handle this without causing any problems." Her tone was calm, polite, but firm. She wasn't seeking approval or favor. She was taking responsibility. This confidence intrigued him even more. The billionaire watched as she moved quickly but efficiently, speaking quietly with the manager, explaining the situation without drama, and coordinating with the kitchen staff. Every action she took was measured, precise, and polite. He noticed small details. The way she carried herself, the way she spoke, the way she managed multiple tasks without showing stress. It wasn't just skill. It was a combination of intelligence, confidence, and composure that was rare to see. As the meal continued, he decided to push the situation a little further. He pretended to be unsure about the ingredients in one of the dishes, suggesting that he might be allergic or sensitive to something. Again, he expected hesitation, maybe a nervous glance or an awkward response. But the waitress handled it smoothly. She explained the ingredients clearly, offered alternatives, and ensured that he would enjoy the meal safely. She never lost her composure, never made him feel guilty, and never acted flustered. Her professionalism was flawless. The billionaire leaned back, smiling slightly. He had set up a scenario meant to test her patience, creativity, and problem-solving, and she had passed it with flying colors. But more than that, she had shown something else, humanity. She treated him not as a wealthy man to impress or fear, but as a person with a problem that needed a solution. Her approach was respectful, intelligent, and kind. He realized that he had been observing someone remarkable, someone who could handle challenges without losing herself. Nearby diners continued their evening, unaware of the subtle game unfolding in the corner. The tension between the billionaire and the waitress wasn't dramatic or loud, but it was palpable. Every gesture, every word, carried meaning. He was curious, observing her not just for how she responded to his tests, but for her natural character. She didn't know she was being tested, and that authenticity made her actions even more impressive. He decided to add a final element to this part of the evening's test. He pretended that he had forgotten not only his wallet but also his phone, suggesting that he had no way to pay or contact anyone. This was an unusual situation, and he expected it might create a sense of pressure or awkwardness. Yet the waitress remained calm. She acknowledged the situation, proposed a practical solution, and reassured him that everything would be handled smoothly. She didn't act rushed or annoyed. She acted with quiet confidence. The billionaire realized that his initial plan had taken a turn. What had started as a simple game to observe her reactions had become something deeper. He was learning about her character, her intelligence, and her composure in real-life situations. He was witnessing a rare balance of skill, kindness, and confidence. It was fascinating to him, and he felt a growing respect for her. As the special order arrived, he continued to observe. The waitress ensured that the dish was prepared exactly as he had requested, explaining each step to him politely. She moved with grace and efficiency, coordinating with the kitchen and staff without drawing unnecessary attention to herself. Her ability to manage the situation with such poise left him quietly impressed. The evening continued with small interactions, each designed to observe her reactions subtly. He asked minor questions, created small challenges, and watched as she navigated them with calm intelligence. She never flustered, never complained, and never acted superior. She simply handled each situation as it came, with skill, patience, and professionalism. The billionaire realized that this kind of person was rare. Most people reacted to pressure with emotion, but she reacted with reason and grace. By the end of the second part of the evening, the billionaire felt a mix of amusement and admiration. His plan to test her patience and composure had worked, but it had revealed something more important: her natural character. She was not just a capable waitress. She was someone who could manage unexpected challenges without losing herself. That quality was impressive even to someone like him who had seen wealth, power, and influence. The tension in the corner table was subtle but meaningful. The billionaire had set up a challenge, and she had met it with skill and confidence. Their interaction had drawn attention not through noise or drama, but through quiet observation and the unfolding of natural character. The evening had progressed far beyond a simple meal. It had become a test of composure, intelligence, and integrity. As the night wore on, the restaurant's atmosphere remained lively, but the connection between the billionaire and the waitress had deepened. He continued to watch her, intrigued by how she handled multiple tasks, interacted with staff, and maintained a calm, confident presence. She had passed the first layer of his subtle test, and he was curious to see how she would respond if the challenges became even more complex. He knew that the next phase of the evening would reveal even more about her character, and he looked forward to it with quiet anticipation. Part 2 of the evening ended with a sense of quiet accomplishment on both sides. The billionaire had successfully set up a scenario to observe her reactions, and the waitress had navigated it perfectly. The subtle game had not yet reached its climax, but the foundation had been laid. Respect, curiosity, and intrigue had been established, setting the stage for what would come next. It was clear that this evening would be remembered, not for the wealth or status involved, but for the remarkable interaction that had taken place between two very different people, each learning from the other in small, meaningful ways. The evening continued, and the restaurant buzzed with its usual rhythm of service and conversation. The billionaire, now feeling a mix of amusement and curiosity, decided to push the interaction further. He had already tested the waitress's calmness, her ability to solve unexpected problems, and her grace under pressure. Now he wanted to see how she would respond to a more challenging, subtle test, one that required quick thinking and resourcefulness beyond standard procedure. He leaned slightly toward her, speaking in a calm but intentionally puzzling tone. "I'm afraid this situation is more complicated than I thought," he said. "It seems I've not only forgotten my wallet, But I've also misplaced an important document I need for a meeting tomorrow. I suppose it's possible it's here somewhere. Could you help me think of a solution? He spoke as if the problem were simple, but his eyes carried a hint of challenge. It was a test of how she would handle ambiguity and unexpected responsibility. The waitress paused, her expression thoughtful but calm. She could have reacted with hesitation, confusion, or even nervous laughter. Instead, she smiled politely, showing both confidence and readiness. "Of course, sir," she replied. "Let's see what we can do. We can check the table and surrounding area carefully. If it's not here, perhaps we can contact the manager for assistance or provide a secure place for you to leave a note about it. We'll find a way to help." Her words were measured, demonstrating both intelligence and empathy. She wasn't intimidated, nor did she try to impress. She simply approached the problem logically. The billionaire watched her closely, impressed by the balance she maintained between professionalism and human warmth. Most people would have been flustered or overly deferential. She handled the situation naturally, with clarity and calm authority. He leaned back in his chair, observing her quietly, noting every gesture, every slight inflection in her voice, and every choice she made in response to his challenge. He decided to introduce a small complication to test her adaptability. He suggested that perhaps a few other diners might have seen his missing document, hinting subtly that it might have been misplaced somewhere in the restaurant. "It's a small possibility," he said lightly, "but maybe someone has noticed it. We might need to ask around." He watched her reaction carefully, expecting hesitation or uncertainty. Instead, the waitress nodded once, her calm demeanor unchanged. "We can do that," she said. "I'll ask discreetly without disturbing anyone, and we'll see if we can locate it. If not, I'll ensure it's noted with the manager so it can be handled properly." "Don't worry, sir." Her approach was both respectful and proactive. She didn't act afraid of making a mistake or overstep boundaries. She simply took the initiative to resolve the situation thoughtfully. He smiled slightly to himself, enjoying the unfolding interaction. The subtle game he had set up was working perfectly. He was witnessing a rare display of character, intelligence, and calm under pressure. She wasn't just a skilled waitress. She was someone who could think critically, act decisively, and maintain composure even when situations became complex. It was fascinating, and he felt a growing admiration. The rest of the restaurant continued around them, oblivious to the silent test unfolding at the corner table. A group of friends laughed over shared dishes, a family celebrated a birthday, and waiters moved with practiced efficiency. Yet, in that corner, a quiet tension remained, an exchange of observation, intelligence, and subtle human insight. The billionaire continued to push his scenario carefully, always watching for her reaction. He decided to add another layer to his challenge. He pretended that there might be a time constraint, that if the document wasn't found, there could be consequences for a meeting the next day. His tone was calm, but he implied urgency, testing her ability to remain composed under pressure. Many people would have panicked at this point, their words betraying their nervousness. But the waitress simply nodded, understanding the concern without being intimidated by it. "We'll make sure it's taken care of, sir," she said gently. Even with a time constraint, there are ways to manage the situation effectively. Let's approach it step by step and find the best solution. Her words were reassuring and confident, demonstrating a rare combination of empathy and competence. The billionaire was quietly impressed. He realized that she had passed not only the basic test of composure but also the more subtle test of adaptability and problem-solving under potential pressure. To further gauge her reaction, he decided to test her creativity. He suggested a scenario where she might need to think outside the box. What if the document was truly lost, and there was no immediate way to retrieve it? How would she handle it? He expected hesitation or vague suggestions. Instead, she smiled thoughtfully and offered a practical, clever solution that could mitigate any issues without causing stress or embarrassment. Her solution was simple yet effective. It involved alerting the manager, providing clear instructions, and creating a secure note for follow-up. She considered both the practicalities and the human elements, ensuring that he wouldn't feel uncomfortable while the problem was resolved efficiently. It was a demonstration of both intelligence and emotional awareness, something rare and valuable in any professional setting. The billionaire observed her quietly, noting the subtleties of her approach. She didn't seek recognition, she didn't act out of fear, and she didn't rely on charm or flattery. She simply applied skill, thoughtfulness, and humanity to solve a problem. It was a remarkable display, and he felt both respect and curiosity growing within him. He realized that he had underestimated the depth of her abilities and character. As the evening progressed, he continued to introduce small, controlled challenges, each designed to test her responses. He asked minor questions, created tiny complications with orders, and even hinted at potential misunderstandings. Each time, she navigated the scenario with calm intelligence and a subtle sense of humor that made the interactions feel natural and engaging rather than tense. He realized that she had a way of handling people and situations that was both graceful and effective, a rare combination that left a lasting impression. He decided to observe her interactions with others as well. While she managed his table carefully, she also coordinated with other staff, assisted diners when needed, and maintained a steady flow of service. Her ability to multitask without showing stress, while remaining polite and approachable, demonstrated not just skill but also character. He noticed how she listened carefully to other diners, responded thoughtfully, and maintained patience, even when situations were hectic. It was an elegant blend of competence and kindness. At one point, he introduced a subtle test of honesty. He jokingly mentioned that he might have left a tip in an unusual form or in an unexpected place. He wanted to see if she would question it, ignore it, or respond with integrity. She simply smiled politely, acknowledged the comment without judgment, and focused on ensuring that the service was correct and respectful. She didn't react with greed, anxiety, or flattery. Her response was genuine and professional, reinforcing the impression he had been forming throughout the evening. The billionaire felt a mix of amusement, admiration, and curiosity. What had started as a simple playful experiment had become something deeper. He wasn't just observing her for entertainment. He was learning about her character, intelligence, and composure under pressure. He realized that she possessed a rare quality, the ability to handle complexity with calmness and grace, without needing to assert authority or seek attention. That realization fascinated him. As the part of the evening came to a close, he reflected on the unfolding events. He had set out to test her reactions and observe her abilities, and she had passed every test with skill and subtlety. Yet, more than that, she had revealed something unexpected, an authentic combination of intelligence, kindness, and human understanding. He knew that this interaction was unlike any he had experienced before, and he was eager to see what the next phase would reveal. Part 3 of the evening ended with a sense of quiet tension and anticipation. The billionaire had tested her adaptability, creativity, honesty, and composure under pressure, and the waitress had met every challenge with elegance and intelligence. The subtle game they were playing was far from over, but the foundation had been laid. Respect, curiosity, and intrigue had been firmly established, setting the stage for a moment that could change the dynamic entirely. The evening promised more surprises, lessons, and revelations, and both of them, in their own ways, were ready for what would come next. The restaurant was quieter now, though still busy with evening diners. The lights cast a warm glow over the tables, and the hum of conversation had a soft rhythm. The billionaire had finished most of his meal, but he lingered, intrigued by the ongoing interaction with the waitress. He had watched her through a series of tests and subtle challenges, and she had passed every one of them with calm intelligence and grace. Yet, he sensed that the next stage of the evening might reveal something even more surprising, something beyond ordinary competence. He decided to push the situation further, moving from subtle challenges to a situation that required not just composure and intelligence but insight and understanding. He leaned toward her slightly and spoke with a calm but deliberate tone. "I think there's one more detail we should consider," he said. "It seems I may have left an item very important to me here. I'm not sure if anyone has noticed it, and I'm afraid it could be gone by now. I'd like your advice on how to handle this discreetly." He didn't act panicked, but his words were meant to provoke thought and observe her response. He was testing her judgment, her ability to handle delicate situations with care. The waitress nodded, her expression calm yet focused. She considered his words carefully and then responded. "We can handle this carefully," she said. "I will speak quietly with the staff and manager to see if anyone has seen it. If it's missing, we'll make sure it's noted securely so that it can be found or protected. There's no need to worry, sir." Her voice was steady, confident, and reassuring. She didn't overreact, she didn't fumble, and she didn't try to impress him with exaggerated gestures. She simply applied her judgment thoughtfully and effectively. He watched her closely, noting every gesture and choice. The way she moved between tables, communicated with staff, and coordinated quietly without disturbing diners impressed him deeply. She was not only skilled in her work but also displayed a rare level of insight and empathy. She anticipated needs, understood subtleties, and acted with discretion and intelligence. It was clear to him that she possessed qualities that went far beyond ordinary expectations. To test her further, he decided to introduce a small twist. He hinted that the missing item might involve personal information and that it could have consequences beyond the immediate moment. He spoke lightly, almost as if joking, but the underlying message carried weight. This was not a test of speed or memory. It was a test of understanding, composure, and the ability to act wisely under unexpected circumstances. The waitress responded calmly. She asked a few thoughtful questions, seeking clarification while remaining composed. She didn't rush or panic. She listened carefully and then offered a solution that balanced caution and efficiency. She suggested a discreet check of the surrounding area, followed by clear communication with the manager, ensuring that the situation was handled professionally and with integrity. She addressed the problem without making it dramatic, keeping the dignity of everyone involved intact. The billionaire felt a shift in his perception. What had started as a playful test of patience and intelligence had become a moment of genuine admiration. He was observing not just skill and composure, but integrity, thoughtfulness, and humanity. She was solving problems in a way that was both practical and considerate, showing that character and wisdom often mattered more than any superficial test. He decided to observe her interaction with other diners as part of the next stage. While she handled his table, she continued to assist others with attentiveness and care. She listened, understood, and responded thoughtfully, balancing multiple demands without losing focus or composure. Every small action she took revealed her ability to handle complexity gracefully. The billionaire noticed the subtleties. The way she maintained eye contact without being overbearing. The way she smiled politely while addressing concerns. The quiet authority she held without arrogance. At one point, he introduced a delicate ethical question, suggesting that the item might involve a misunderstanding with another diner. He wanted to see how she would navigate a situation that required moral judgment. Her response was measured and insightful. She suggested a solution that was fair and respectful, ensuring that no one felt wronged while still protecting the interests of all involved. She did not lecture, scold, or act judgmental. She simply applied thoughtful reasoning and empathy. The billionaire leaned back in his chair, quietly impressed. This was beyond the challenges he had initially planned. He realized that she possessed rare qualities: intelligence, calmness, empathy, and moral awareness. She managed complexity with grace and thoughtfulness, all while maintaining a sense of warmth and human connection. He had expected competence, he had found character. He decided to add one more layer, a subtle revelation to see how she would react to unexpected truth. He revealed a small detail about himself, hinting at his status and influence without boasting or creating pressure. It was a test of her reaction to the reality behind the playful scenarios. Would she treat him differently knowing his wealth and power? Would she be impressed, intimidated, or dismissive? Her response was quietly remarkable. She didn't change her behavior. She treated him with the same calm intelligence and respect she had shown from the beginning. She acknowledged the information without judgment or awe, and continued to focus on the problem at hand. Her integrity remained intact, and her composure unwavering. The billionaire realized that her respect was earned through genuine character, not influenced by his status or wealth. As the evening continued, he introduced a final scenario. What if the missing item could not be found immediately? He watched closely as she considered options, weighed potential consequences, and proposed a solution that balanced practicality with fairness. She suggested clear communication, responsible follow-up, and maintaining a calm demeanor, ensuring that all parties involved would feel respected and understood. Her solution was elegant in its simplicity, thoughtful in its detail, and human in its approach. The billionaire observed the subtle reactions of the diners nearby, who were unaware of the interaction. They moved about their evening, laughing, sharing meals, and enjoying the ambience, while the quiet display of skill, character, and human insight unfolded at his table. He realized that what made her remarkable wasn't just her competence. It was her humanity, her ability to navigate challenges with kindness, intelligence, and calm authority. By the end of this part of the evening, the billionaire felt a deep respect and admiration. His playful tests had revealed something far greater than expected. The waitress had not only met every challenge with skill and composure, but had also displayed qualities of empathy, integrity, and moral insight. She had navigated complex situations with grace, balancing multiple demands while remaining true to herself. The revelation was clear. This interaction was more than a test of patience or intelligence. It was a demonstration of character, a reminder that true skill and wisdom often manifest in subtle human ways. The billionaire, despite his wealth and experience, had learned something profound from observing her. Her calm, thoughtful, and principled responses had left an impression that would stay with him far beyond the evening. As they concluded this part of the evening, he leaned back with a quiet smile, acknowledging the subtle victory she had achieved without fanfare. She had handled every situation with skill, intelligence, and integrity, and he realized that the next stage of their interaction might reveal even more about the strength and depth of her character. The moment had become a shared understanding of respect, capability, and human insight. The evening was far from over, but the foundation had been laid for a powerful and unexpected twist. The billionaire had intended a playful test, but he had discovered a rare and genuine display of character. The waitress, in her quiet, confident, and thoughtful way, had transformed the interaction from a simple game into a moment of revelation, showing that true value often lies in composure, empathy, and intelligence rather than wealth or status. Both of them were aware, in their own ways, that something remarkable had unfolded, setting the stage for the next and final part of the evening. The evening had reached its quiet climax, though the restaurant was still lively with diners enjoying their meals. The billionaire sat back, watching the waitress handle the tables around him with the same calm composure he had admired from the beginning. The earlier challenges, tests, and subtle observations had revealed more than he expected. Intelligence, grace, empathy, and a quiet strength that could not be simulated or faked. He realized that she had passed every test he had devised, not by guessing what he wanted to see, but by simply being herself, confident, skilled, and thoughtful. He decided it was time for the final interaction, a moment that would close the evening in a way that reflected what he had learned. He caught her attention with a polite gesture and asked if she could spare a moment for a private word. She nodded, moving with her usual grace, and approached his table. The other diners were unaware of the significance of the quiet exchange about to take place. "I wanted to say something to you," he began, his tone calm but sincere. "Tonight, I've seen something rare. I've observed many people, but few can handle situations with the composure, intelligence, and kindness that you've shown. You've impressed me, not just with your skill, but with your character." The waitress looked at him, surprised but composed. She nodded politely, unsure of how much weight his words carried. He continued, explaining how he had set up subtle scenarios and challenges throughout the evening, all designed to observe her reactions. He spoke honestly, without arrogance or condescension, and acknowledged that she had passed every one of his tests effortlessly. Her calmness, creativity, and integrity had revealed a depth of character that he had not expected. She listened quietly, maintaining her professional poise, though a subtle warmth appeared in her expression. She had handled the evening with grace, unaware of the full extent of his observations. Now, in this moment, she realized the reason behind the unusual interactions and the attention she had received. The billionaire smiled slightly, leaning back in his chair. Most people would have been flustered, nervous, or unsure of themselves. You remained calm, thoughtful, and authentic throughout. That's rare. It's a quality that can't be taught or imitated. She acknowledged his words with a polite nod, a quiet sense of pride evident in her composure. It wasn't arrogance. It was the satisfaction of knowing she had handled a challenging evening with dignity and intelligence. She had remained true to herself, and it had been recognized in a way that felt meaningful and genuine. He reached into his pocket, producing a small card. It wasn't just an ordinary card. It was a gesture of acknowledgement and respect. "I'd like to leave this with you," he said. "Consider it a token of my appreciation for the way you've handled tonight. Your professionalism, intelligence, and humanity are exceptional." She accepted the card politely, her fingers brushing briefly against his. She didn't overreact or display exaggerated emotion. She simply thanked him quietly, maintaining the poise that had characterized her throughout the evening. It was a simple, human acknowledgement, yet it carried a weight far greater than any monetary reward or recognition. The other staff and diners continued their activities, unaware of the quiet exchange. The billionaire observed her one last time, noting the small details, the way she adjusted a plate for a diner, the way she listened attentively to a question, the way she moved with confidence and grace. Every action reflected the qualities that had impressed him most: intelligence, empathy, and composure. As the evening drew to a close, he decided to leave a final impression. He asked the manager to prepare a generous tip, not as a test or a show of wealth, but as a reflection of respect for her skill and character. It was a gesture that acknowledged her professionalism and the quiet strength she had demonstrated throughout the night. The waitress continued her work, unaware at first of the full significance of the tip. When she realized the extent of the gesture, she accepted it with her usual grace, a quiet smile on her face. She didn't gloat or boast. She simply acknowledged the recognition, understanding that it was meaningful not because of the amount, but because it represented appreciation for her integrity and skill. The billionaire stood to leave, offering a polite nod and a small smile. "Thank you for a remarkable evening," he said. "I've learned more than I expected, and it's all because of how you handled yourself." She nodded politely, a sense of quiet pride evident in her expression. "It's been my pleasure, sir," she replied. Her tone was professional, warm, and sincere. There was no pretense, no exaggeration, just the simple acknowledgement of a moment shared and respect earned. As he exited the restaurant, the city lights reflected off the glass windows, casting a gentle glow over the street. The billionaire walked away with a sense of satisfaction and admiration, reflecting on the rare qualities he had observed. It wasn't wealth, status, or influence that had defined the evening. It was character, intelligence, and human insight. The experience left him with a renewed appreciation for people who handled challenges with composure, empathy, and quiet strength. Inside, the waitress continued her work, her movements calm and confident, her focus on the diners before her. She had navigated an unusual evening with grace, handling challenges she didn't fully understand at the time, and emerged with quiet recognition and respect. She had been true to herself, and that authenticity had shown through every interaction. The story of the evening, though unseen by most, had left a lasting impression on both of them. For the billionaire, it was a lesson in humility, character, and the power of human intelligence and empathy. For the waitress, it was a moment of recognition for her professionalism and composure, a quiet acknowledgement that her skills and character mattered beyond the immediate tasks of the evening. The restaurant returned to its usual rhythm, the hum of conversation and clinking of glasses filling the space. Yet, for the billionaire and the waitress, the night had been more than ordinary. It had been a series of subtle tests, observations, and revelations that highlighted what truly mattered. It was a story of respect earned through skill, composure, and human insight rather than wealth or status. As the last diners left and the staff prepared to close, the memory of the evening lingered. The billionaire had discovered a rare and remarkable character in the waitress, someone who handled complexity with intelligence, grace, and empathy. And the waitress had experienced a moment of recognition and respect that went beyond any ordinary interaction, a testament to the power of human integrity and composure. The night ended quietly, leaving both of them with a shared understanding. It wasn't about wealth, power, or influence. It was about character, thoughtfulness, and the subtle, meaningful ways in which people reveal who they truly are. The billionaire walked into the city night with admiration and curiosity, knowing that he had encountered someone truly exceptional. The waitress continued her work, grounded in her skills and composure, carrying the quiet knowledge that her character had left an impression that would not be forgotten.